lose in your fantasy league. We got that blue and orange blood that you bleed. The most loyal fans there ever could be. We are that mile high Broncos country.
The Denver Broncos select Orange Weekly, Fans, Brews, and Broncos News.
Good evening, Broncos country. Welcome to another edition of Bourbon, Broncos, and No BS. My name is 𝗕𝗿cie, and I got the great Jared here with me tonight. Jared, how you doing, sir?
I'm doing good. Happy New Year's Eve to everybody out there. Counting down the new year, getting ready to head into 2025. And hopefully it's a good 2025 for the Denver Broncos as we look to clinch our first playoff berth in 8 years, 9 years, 8 years. It's been a while.
9 years. Yeah, 9 years. It's
years.
been way too long. Way too freaking long. Hey, guys, yeah, let's get going. Start posting your comments. Start posting your questions. Hit that share button, guys. We want to bring in as many Broncos fans as we can into this conversation as we break down the really close loss to the Bengals, but then start looking forward to this next week's game where the Broncos have a pretty dang good chance to clinch the playoffs at home. And just end the season out on a bang and, start 2025 off on the right foot. This is going to be a fun show, guys. So, Jared, glad you're here with me tonight. Let's just jump right into it. One thing that everybody has some opinion on, one way or the other. We all know what this is. The 2-point conversion, or their lack thereof. Sean Payton decided to not go for 2. We are going to just dive right into that and listen to what Sean Payton says and then talk about that. Jared, here we want to hear your viewpoint, especially, with your coaching experience. I know I went on my soapbox a little bit last night, but here we go, guys. Let's listen in.
We spent some time thinking about. I'm gonna answer this now. All right, going for 2. We knew a tie though was for us just as beneficial as a win, and we felt like we had the momentum at that point. So, look, it went back and forth, and in the end, we didn't make enough plays. They did. All right. Any questions?
So, if you want to listen to the full audio of everything and what he said and breaking down his decision there a little bit more, you can definitely check out that post-game press conference. But he stood by his decision, whether he was right or wrong, whether you agree with him or not. He wasn't go up there and start mincing words and wasn't going to start like, well, maybe I should have. No, he stood by it. But Jared, man, take it away, bud.
All right, I'm going to get along a little bit of a soapbox here, so hopefully you guys are ready for this and comment and let me know if you think I'm wrong. It was the right decision. There's a lot of people that said it wasn't. And first of all, before I start this, I want to say we're just happy. I'm happy that we have a head coach that does something like that, where he stands by his decision. He stands by all the decisions that he made. He takes pressure off his young quarterback. He takes pressure off the offense. But yeah, it's nice to have a coach that does all those things. Secondly, why was it a good decision? Here's where I'm going to start my soapbox. All right, there's a lot of people in Broncos country that are angry about the coaching decisions that were made in that game that we just played on Saturday afternoon, Saturday evening. You can be mad. Like you're allowed to be mad, and I get it. Everybody wants to find someone to blame. They want to find someone to blame for the way that we lost it. We had all the opportunities in the world. We stopped them twice on 4th down the first half. They a bonked field goal, a couple drive killers. Like, we did a really good job defensively for the most part, and the offense just wasn't getting things going. Here's the reason why it was the right decision on the 2-point conversion, and I'll start there. First reason it was a good decision on 2-point conversion. We had never been in the red zone. That entire game, we had never been in the red zone to see what kind of red zone defense they had. So as you're going up against it, the 2 touchdowns that we had were huge, long touchdowns to Marvin Mims, right? Big plays. We never were in the position to get into the red zone to see what would work and what wouldn't in the red zone. So that's one. We would have no idea what kind of defense they were going to run. So what play do you pull out of your pocket other than what you've seen on film? It's kind of an up in the air. We lost the momentum because we had the momentum with the touchdown. Everyone was wild. It went to a review for a little bit, and that gave them a little bit more time to make the decision like, maybe this wasn't a good call. The second thing I want to say, this is where you can clip me, Kev. Clip me all you want.
I got it.
People are mad. Broncos country are mad because he wasn't being aggressive, right? He wasn't being aggressive. Well, you could be mad that he wasn't aggressive on second down, but then don't be mad that he was aggressive in overtime, right? He was aggressive. We had 3 minutes left on the clock, and it was a 2nd and 6 or something like that, 2nd and 7, something stupid, and we threw the ball. It didn't work. We threw the ball again. It didn't work. One of them was to a wide open, right? And again, I'm not trying to blame anybody, but it was a wide open play that would have gotten us in a field goal range to win the game. That's really what it comes down to. But you can't have it both ways. You can't say, oh, coach is calling a terrible game because he's too afraid to win the game. And then we try to go win the game and you're mad because he wasn't running the ball to go for the tie, right? So you can't have it both ways. He was trying something. It didn't work out. We had a better chance in open field than we did in the red zone. And I agree with the decisions that he made. We just couldn't execute. And we have to remember, we have a young team. The play that was to Franklin, it wasn't there. Like, it was there. It was open. 2 rookies that have all year have just been this close to connecting and just haven't connected yet. We have a young team. There's a lot to go for this team. I'm not blaming coach for any of this. This is not a coach. This is a young team who's trying to find themselves and trying to get working. And the fact that we're in that game against one of the top high-powered offenses in the league says something more than anything else. So that's what I want to say. That's my soapbox on the coaching decisions. I don't think it's fair to just sit here and say that Sean Payton is the reason we lost that game, because that's what I'm seeing on social media. And I think that's just wrong. Yeah.
Look, I think overall, great point. One thing I really didn't think of is we hadn't been in the red zone that entire game, right? And so you're looking at, well, we don't know what kind of red zone defense are going to put up against us. And if you go back and you think about how long of a break or that review actually gave the Bengals to think about and plan, what do we want to do? Yeah, we had McLaughlin who was running well. Yeah.
And not for nothing, too, we called that 2-point conversion as soon as the touchdown happened, right? So Coach Payton went into Bo's ear, says, keep the offense in the field. We're going for 2. We have momentum. Get on the line and run a play, because they were in a nickel. If we could have got on the line with them in their nickel, we would have had more opportunity to run the ball up the throat and win that game. But we didn't, because the review gave time for a substitute. And because we called for 2, it gave them a time to substitute in. We had to make the decision to go back. So those are 2 things that people aren't thinking about when they're looking at that play.
Exactly. It is when you're in the moment, right, and you're feeling the excitement. It wasn't like last night's game against the Lions, or not last night's. Which other game went to overtime a couple nights ago? Either way, there was one of the other games. Yeah. It's like, okay, well, it's not nearly as intense as the fan when you don't have any skin in the game, right? When it's not one of your 2 teams. And these things are happening, and you can kind of sit back and realize how much time is passing between these things, such as, booth reviews and whatnot. But when you're in the moment, you're like, come on, go for 2, come on. And they're like, why are you going for 1? Oh my God, right? And I get it. I get when people are just, I was the same way, right? Hearing what you have to say from that coaching perspective, and kind of just going off of what the announcer was saying was like, look, Bo wants to go for 2, but the coach said no. Like, oh my God, why is the coach doing that, right? And
that's not what happened, because the coach has to be the one to tell Bo to keep the offense on the field. Bo wasn't running down the sideline saying go for 2 because it was his decision. Like, I don't like, people are missing that point. Like, he's not run down the sideline and be like 2 because he wants to go for 2. It's because coach told him keep the offense on the field. We're keeping this extra point on the sideline until that review happened. Once that review happened, substitutes were allowed to come in. You don't know what you're seeing from the defense. You have no idea. You're looking at your play sheet. You can't look at it and say, this play will work in the red zone, because we hadn't seen it all game.
Exactly. So, look, coulda, shoulda, woulda, hindsight 2020. I guarantee you guys, if we had gone for 2 and it didn't work, there would be just as many of y'all out there screaming, we should have gone for 2. That was a stupid decision, blah, blah, blah. Now, look, I was in that camp after that game, and even maybe a little bit last night. Because here's what I was thinking, Jared. You know, you go back to last year where we were playing Washington in week 2, and we went for 2 there to try to end the game. And that was with Russell Wilson, a quarterback that Sean Payton hadn't worked with very much. It was only week 2. There wasn't much on the line, you know. So you're looking at, well, they don't really trust each other. They don't know each other. They don't have the rapport that Bo and Sean have right now. So why would we go for 2 there, but not in this situation, right? I know the thought is, don't give Burrow the ball back in overtime, okay? And the score, when you look at the score, you're like, oh, they put up 30 against us. We got to remember, up until like the last little bit of the game, that game was tied at 17. We had held Joe Burrow to 17 points. And they, you know, give them as much credit. 1, they're the home team. 2, they're way more desperate than we were, fighting for any potential of them getting the playoffs, which would just is not going to happen. I don't think, but we'll see. And you got to admit, if the record of the Bengals was better, if they had a much better defense, Joe Burrow would be maybe at the top of the conversation of this MVP discussion, if not tied with Lamar Jackson. He is having that good of a year. These guys went to the Super Bowl not too long ago. So these are guys that are, you know, that have been playing together. They're in sync with each other. They know how to read each other. They're all on the same page. They're 3-4 years ahead of where we want to be. And that's okay. We're not there yet, right? But get us there. Give us some time. Get these players. Get Franklin and Bo on the same page, like they've just almost been. And these things are going to start clicking. It's just not there yet.
Yep, it's just we're a young team, and we have to just at some point. It took me a couple days to sit back and take a breath because I was livid when I got off social media. I was like, I mean, you saw me in the chat.
That's why you were quiet. Okay.
I was angry. I stopped. I was like, I'm going to bed. I cannot do this right now. I can't argue with a bunch of people online. It's not going to go anywhere. Everyone's just mad. And I get it. As fans, we want something to blame. We want somebody to blame. And again, I go back to, I got to give props to Coach because he took the blame. He said he's the guy. He's okay being the bad guy. And he's okay saying, guys, this isn't on Bo. This is on me. And he's been doing it all year. And it just shows that we have such a solid group of people. And you know, him doing that all year gives his players faith in him to be able to say, I trust you to go out there and do the right thing. And if you do it, if something goes wrong, I'll take the blame for it. That's a good leader. That's someone that you want in there. So yeah. And going to D-Rock, right, man, like, and going back to this young team, man, like I agree. We had all the opportunity in the world in that game. The big touchdown was, first of all, the first touchdown was absolutely beautiful, but for both players, like just an amazing, beautiful touchdown. The second play, 4th and 2. So that's another one. People aren't mad at the 4th and 2 call, right? Because we got a touchdown on it. 4th and 2, and we throw it down to the end zone. He catches the ball. Just Marvin Mims getting involved as a wide receiver has been absolutely amazing for us, and I think it's really shown dividends, specifically in that game. But you're going to see it move on as we get forward because him and Bo are definitely on the same page. Yeah. So we have that.
Let's get down to.
No, go ahead.
Yeah. Let's pull up Michael's here. I'm sorry I disagree with Jared. I would rather have put the game in Bo's hands rather than a secondary that struggled with the monster passing attack, even if it didn't work. And also Victor saying they were ranked 30th on defense. Why not go for it? We had the momentum. We did until the review. We did until the Bengals were able to substitute. We did until the Bengals were able to think about what kind of things does Sean Payton like to run and how are we going to match up against that? So I agree until we did.
So here's my thing with both those statements, right? You can't have both of them. Yes, they have the 30th ranked defense. What did we do the first 4 quarters? Like, if they had the 30th ranked defense, how could we only put up 17 in the first three and a half quarter? Like, that's what is, and really that second touchdown we got was kind of a fluke, right? It was just a great play that he just threw up in the air, and Marvin Mims came down with it. So if they're the 30th ranked defense, we should have done more throughout the whole game. And the same thing in overtime, we should have been able to drive it. They gave us a gift with the missed field goal, the doink on the field goal. I hate saying the word because I've noticed people calling anytime it hits the upright, they call it a doink, whatever. The doink on the field goal gave us a gift to drive down, and he did put it in Bo's hands. He did. We ran the ball on first. We weren't going for a tie. They had no timeouts left, 3 minutes left, second and 7, whatever it was. He gives the ball to Bo, says keep in the middle of the field, and he does. He tries. No incomplete passes both times, and now people are mad at him for not running it for the tie because we knew we needed the tie. But if we get a first down there, we run it to the tie because all we need is one first down. We can run the clock out to be able to run for the tie. You hit Franklin on that play, and for the record, 𝗕𝗿cie was open the play before. If nobody noticed it, 𝗕𝗿cie was wide open for a first down on the second down play. Didn't hit him. It is what it is, right? Coaching decision or execution, young team experience, right? Knowing what you're going for, knowing how to read the field. Bo's still got a lot to learn, and he's doing great where he is. He's doing much better than we expect him to. And we just have to accept the fact that we're a young team that's still growing as a team. And yeah, we'll be able to take on, and we'll talk about it here in about 15 minutes as we get ready to head into Kansas City or into Denver against a secondary, maybe third string Kansas City team. But it's not the end of the world. And I don't like the fact that people are trying to hang our coach out to dry because we just couldn't execute the way we wanted to. Yes, they're the 30th ranked team. Sure. Were they 30th in red zone? Probably, but we had never seen it. And that's really what the decision for me, and he didn't say it. This is just me assuming this is what my decision would have been if I'm the offensive coordinator here. Yeah. I want to go for 2 if they have to keep their secondary, if they have to keep their nickel or dime package out there, which is what they had out. I'm going for 2. If they don't, we never saw their red zone defense. We don't know what kind of play. I'm looking at my play sheet. I can't look at it and say, this is what they're going to run.
Yeah.
Not for the game on the line.
If you had a couple of opportunities earlier on in the game where you got to really look at, okay, well, in this situation, this is how they line up. In that situation, that's how they line up. Here's what they're going to do to try to stop us. You can whittle down that. You see how crazy those play sheets are. You can whittle down and say, okay, this is what should probably give us the best opportunity, especially with their defense on their heels, get out there and make it happen quick. But we lost that opportunity, right? And so once you lose that, look, Jared, as of last night, I was sitting here on the show and I went on my soapbox and pretty much said the very thing that you're arguing against. But taking that step and really looking at look, we lost, and it wasn't a fault of our own. Just we lost the momentum with that review. We going back, why were we not able to put up more than 17 points against one of the worst defenses in the league? It wasn't our day. But there were a lot of bright spots, right? First off, look, this team has gone way further than we thought they would, than anyone really thought they would. Right? Yeah, there are some of us diehards that always just go around saying Super Bowl every year, Super Bowl, Broncos Super Bowl, right? But in reality, it's like, okay, but you take the blue and orange goggles off, that's not likely, right? Making the playoffs, I think we all went into the season just assuming we would add another year to not making the playoffs because we were going to be close to playoff contention. And here we are. It's a very different situation. And to be honest, I would rather clinch the playoffs at home and experience that with the home crowd than, but I do got to give a shout out once again to all the Broncos fans that were at that game. Guys, I mean, just hearing how loud it was when the Bengals offense was on the field. No, they didn't have to go to a silent snap count, but it was still loud. And Jared, one of the guys that tuned in last night, Bob, was actually at the game, and he verified there were just a ton of fans. And fans were even saying, wow, Broncos country, you guys travel well. That's really inspiring to see that. Look, fans across the country here, we are really hyped up on this team. And this is just the start. This is just year one. If we can continue this momentum, we have this culture of winning and expectation of winning and players stepping up. Look, we get another solid draft. These guys get another offseason to really develop and get individual practice and study film. It just goes back. One of the big things, if Bo and Franklin can get on the same page. How many chances have they taken this year and they just didn't connect, but we're so close, right? If they can just make that happen. And a lot of people are just like, why, how is it that difficult? Man, Jared, you got to tell me, you're thinking that wide receiver in the 2 seconds the ball is in the air, you're thinking about where is the defender? Where's the ball going? How do I position my body to catch the ball and not let the defender intercept the ball? How can I stay in bounds? What am I going to do to stay in bounds, position my feet? There's a lot going through that guy's head in the 2 seconds. The ball's in the air, man. So look, people develop at different rates and they learn at different rates, and that's okay.
Well, not just that, too, with Bo, man. Like when you're talking about getting your you and your wide receivers getting on the same page, it's not just okay, this is where they're going to be at this time. It's speed, total top speed, right? So Marvin Mims, amazing top speed, right? Got over the top as soon as he was in full stream. He was over the top, and it was a great throw. He found it and he got it. For guys like Franklin and Mims, for not for nothing, but the acceleration is different, right? You guys have a guy like Cortland Sutton or even 𝗕𝗿cie who can accelerate out of a plant or out of a press a little bit faster than others. So I think he was expecting Franklin to accelerate out of the press a little bit faster, and he just didn't. That's why it was an overthrown ball, and that's why most of them that you've seen them not connect on have been overthrown. Is either he doesn't know what his top speed is, or he doesn't know what his acceleration out of the press is, and it just wasn't there. Now, if that's Mims, I feel like that ball is complete. And this isn't knocking Franklin. It's just Bo had that better right, like look at, hey, after the press, if he can see that guy, I'm putting the ball right here. I'm leading the receiver because he can accelerate out of that plant. And it was in the exact same spot, the exact right spot. He knew where it was going to go. It's just a little touch too far because Franklin didn't accelerate out of it. And again, not on him. It's just that the connection just wasn't there.
Yeah. Paula and Jerry, both to you guys, Happy New Year's as well. And to everyone else watching, guys, make sure you're hitting that share button for us. Make sure you're hitting like and subscribe as well. Definitely appreciate your guys' support. Now, one thing that definitely want to bring up, I kind of mentioned it in the pregame show, Jared, with you, was, man, I was glad to have McLaughlin back in the lineup. You know, it was really, I was like, okay, you know, knowing that he's going to be there, that's going to give us a lot more opportunity. Just knowing the style of play that McLaughlin has, and then he goes out there and 69 yards on 10 carries. And again, the longest he had was 13. So it's not like he got like a 30 or 40 yard run and the others were like 2 or 3. Like he was averaging on each one of those carries between 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 yards. You know, that is really good for some of the running backs that we, you know, just running games that we've seen all year. So McLaughlin just came back from that injury and did not miss a beat at all, man. It was great.
Yeah, no, it was good to have him back. And again, having that speed guy in the backfield and go that outside run is really what helped us out, as opposed to the interior. Like, and not for nothing, our running game was working, and it was working in the second half too. We just got ourselves into some weird positions. We talked about penalties getting to us into bad positions, and we made up for it as much as we could. We threw the ball 31 times. We ran it 27, which is much better at 20, right? We'll say 20 because 7 of them were Bo Nix runs.
Still,
but ultimately, like we ran a good game. We played a good game. You saw McLaughlin be the lead back. 𝗕𝗿cie got 9 carries. McLaughlin got 10. That doesn't mean that, Williams wasn't in there. He was in there a lot for passing downs. He got his, in there for blocks, stuff like that. But yeah, I mean, ultimately, yeah, McLaughlin and 𝗕𝗿cie both had, 6.9 yards per carry for Jaleel McLaughlin. He had a 13-yard scamper there, 24 for 2.7 for Audric 𝗕𝗿cie, a little bit lower than what you want. But ultimately, it was a decent run game, and McLaughlin was playing well, and that's why they just kind of fed the hot hand and got him the ball when we needed to. 10 carry, like I said, 20 rushing 20 times, throwing for 31. That's a little bit more with what I want to see from the Broncos, as opposed to what we had been seeing, which is like 40-9. I'd rather the little bit more even split, because our run game can be there. And we saw in the first half, our run game was there. That first drive specifically, I do want to go back all the way to that first drive. I think that's a big missed opportunity. Right. We got down within field goal range. We just couldn't kind of punch it in, but we had a great drive going there, and it just kind of spiraled out of control for the offense until the fourth quarter, which is unfortunate.
Yeah. Now, we spent the first 25 minutes of the show, guys, talking basically all offense stuff. We have got to spend at least a little bit of time tipping our caps literally to the defense. And I'm not just talking about those goal line stops. I'm talking about Riley Moss coming back in. 14 total tackles, led the team with tackles. Zach the Sackinator Allen, 3.5. Yeah, I'm doing it. 3.5 sacks, 2 tackles for loss. You got Cooper getting some sack action. You got DJ Jones, Franklin Myers. I mean, these guys were just constantly in the backfield, especially in the second half. And it was, they did everything they could against an incredibly high-powered offense.
Yeah, and Riley Moss coming back from the injury is tough, right? You're going against probably it is the most high-powered offense in the NFL. passing quarterback, the number one receiver in the league as far as yards go, and then T. Higgins, who's a number one literally anywhere else in the league. They got two number one receivers back there, and they both did just eat us up a little bit. The one thing I will say that was a little disappointed is Mike Gesicki did destroy us a little bit, right? Goes back to kind of give me flashbacks of us not being able to stop tight ends. He got himself 10 receptions, 86 yards, and I think of those 10, I think 8 of them were for first downs, big first downs that we could have stopped them and got the ball back. But the reason we talked about the offense so much because that's really what struggled the most. I mean, holding them to 17 points going into the overtime, or I guess that end of the fourth quarter there, where we traded touchdowns
before the crazy
is a lot.
Started,
it's big. Yeah, and honestly, it's because like our defense, and not for nothing, we got to give credit to the defense even more. Like they were on the field a lot. Like I mean, I don't know what the hell. I'll look up the total time of possession here, but like man, like they were on the. It just felt like the defense was on the field 90% of the time. I know that's probably an overeducated, but
yeah, time of possession basically 42 minutes for the Bengals to the 27 minutes for the Broncos. So
yeah, that's a lot. That's almost a third. They almost had it for 2/3 of the game. Like that is a lot. Like they had the ball for a long time. Their defense was getting tired. They were out there for a long time, and really just the questionable. What are they going to run next? At that point, it's difficult. And the Bengals had a great game plan going in, and they executed to perfection. And you kind of see why the Bengals are in the record they are, because they gave us a lot of opportunities and we just couldn't capitalize on them. And that's again, I got to give it to them. Like, we're just a young team. We're a young team that's figuring it out, and we had the opportunities. We didn't take advantage of a couple of them, and we got lucky a couple times. We also got unlucky a couple times, but that is what it is.
It is what it is. Mike, I completely agree, man. I was saying this last night too. Look, the type of pressure that we were bringing, and as successful as we were in getting in the backfield and getting those sacks, if you're not named Joe Burrow or Patrick Mahomes or Lamar Jackson or any of these other like superstar quarterbacks, yeah, your average quarterback is going to crumble in that. They are going to panic. They're going to get the ball out of their hands earlier. And you saw there were at least 2 hits on Joe Burrow that, man, he got the ball out of his hand just in the nick of time. You know, if he had gotten that ball out any sooner, it would have been incomplete. But he was able to make the play because he took the hit and he made it happen, right? So
with
that's
accuracy.
the type of quarterback Joe Burrow is, with accuracy. Yeah, so you can't be mad at that. Just the guy knows how to ball. The guy knows how to play ball.
Yeah. Yeah, and we've played against some really top-tier quarterbacks this year too. And
now,
if we do beat Kansas City and we end up going to Buffalo, it's another top-tier quarterback we have to worry about, right? I mean, and it's just it's the point of the game, and you got to be able to cover and be able to rush. It's not one or the other in this league. You have to be able to do both. And I want to give Riley Moss more props. I know a lot of people, another group of people that are blaming why do we put Riley Moss back in there? He was injured. He got torched. Like, who else are you going to put in there, right? Like Chris Abrams-Draine. Chris Abrams-Draine does a good job too, but I think he also would have got torched. You're talking about going against T. Higgins and Jamar Chase. Like, it's tough. It's tough to follow those guys.
Worse.
Yeah. I don't know. Like, hindsight's 2020 as always. You're going to go back at the film, and I'm sure the team already did. On Sunday, they went back on the film and they looked at all of it and was like, this is probably what we could have done better. This is where we need to get better at and move forward. But I think that the team overall held their own, both on the field and as they were walking off field. They never gave up, right? There was times that even I'm watching the game, I'm like, oh shit. I think that 4th and 2 touchdown, I was like, he was rolling out and no joke. I'm in the backyard watching this game. He throws the ball on 4th and 2 after rolling out, and I was like, oh, there's the game. Yeah. And then we get the touchdown, and all of a sudden it's an overtime game. That game was such a fun game if I wasn't so stressed. It was a fun game to watch.
Yeah, I think if a doctor came and checked my blood pressure there, at the end of the game, you would have looked at me and said, you're clinically dead. Yeah, how are you breathing? So yeah, it was intense. It was probably good that the in-laws were here because it made me not yell very loud. I had to keep the volume lower.
Yeah, I had to go in the backyard because my daughter told me to keep it quiet. So I went in the backyard, and that way the neighbors could hear. They could hear whatever they want. It was Saturday. We're fine.
It was Saturday. It's fine. It's fine. Well, look, guys, we're gonna start getting into this upcoming game next. But before we do, just again, it was a hard-fought game. We could have done more on offense, so the defense did what they were supposed to do. The overtime, I mean, it went back and forth. It wasn't a one and done. It wasn't like the Chargers got the ball. I will say that tails never fails. Yeah, in both these overtime games, tails never fails, and they called heads. But whatever. It was all, but it went back and forth. And you can't fault the guys, for again, where we're supposed to be versus where we actually are. Miles difference, huge difference between those two things.
And I'd be so much more mad right now if we didn't get the opportunities we had. I would. I mean, I would rather fail and get the opportunity to learn from it than not get the opportunity at all. And now we're talking about playoffs start this week as we transition into our halftime. Playoffs start this week. It's win or we're out. I don't think that between the Bengals play Pittsburgh, which is going to be a tough game for them, but I think Miami plays someone really bad. The Jets.
Yeah, I think Tua is supposed to be out too. So
Miami plays the Jets, so we'll see how that goes. And then Cincinnati plays Pittsburgh. They're playing for, and again, high-powered offense, and Pittsburgh's been kind of iffy. So I don't want to hope and pray on a win that those guys lose as well. I think this is a playoff game. We go in there, we win this game, and we move on to the playoffs for the first time in 9 years. And then we get this young team playoff experience, more playoff experience.
I love it, man. I love it. Okay, guys, let's move on into some halftime action, get some announcements out of the way before we move on to talking about this upcoming Chiefs game. First off, if you guys want to feel good after a rough game that we experienced this last Saturday, make sure you check out and get yourself a bottle of 𝗕𝗿cie from Breckenridge Distillery. Their Broncos Championship blend, blue bottle, orange bottle. I think the orange bottle, Randy Gradishar had a hand in making. I can't remember who helped with the blue one there, but these actually Broncos players have a hand in developing the flavors and everything of that. So you can drink some of that, feel like a champion, and cheer yourself up. So make sure you check that out. I know if you didn't notice, our bottles are still sealed. So if the Broncos win, which it's likely, but if they win, because you never know what happens, we will be going live as soon as the Broncos clinch their playoff spot to celebrate with you guys, open up these bottles up, and have some drinks with you all to celebrate. So we'll try to give you guys as much heads up as possible. Just get ready for it and watch your notifications, because when that happens, we're going live that night to talk about it. So get ready for that. Also, don't forget, Tuesday night, Bourbon Broncos no BS. Like we're doing this every Tuesday night. We're going to keep this rolling, guys. And don't forget about the pregame podcast coming out later this week. Last regular season game of the year. Maybe for the first time in Bourbon Broncos no BS history, we'll get to do a playoff episode of both this show and the pregame podcast and everything. So it's exciting time to be Broncos fans. Get ready for it. We're going to keep everything coming out. Now, also, huge shout out to Mike Carminelli, host of the, I can't remember which one it is, host of the Mic'd Up Broncos Media Battles podcast. And he comes out with this list every year, his top 20 Broncos podcasts. He went and ranked us number 12 this year. So big thanks to everybody who's tuning in, everybody who's watching, all of you guys. This is why we do this show. And to thank you guys, we're going to continue our tradition of doing the fan appreciation episode in late January. We're going to have some special guests. We're going to probably bring up some of you fans to come on live and say hi and ask some questions and just interact with us as well. We'll be doing a ton of Broncos giveaways and prizes. And again, just our way of saying thank you for all of your support through all of these years that we've been doing this. I mean, we've been doing this the whole time the Broncos have struggled. And you guys have stuck with us this whole time. And it's fantastic. So we're going to say thank you again by doing that show. No date on that announced. Just it's going to be late January. Watch for your notifications on when we plan on doing that show. So I think that's about it, Jared. I think it's time for us to move into this upcoming game. Now, Chiefs are playing their backups, they're saying, but, you can't just go out there and be like, oh, well, then we don't have to try as hard because it's their backups, right? These guys are kind of showing they have a chance to show that, I can make next year's team. I'm somebody that deserves to stay here or get more play time. They're going to be going out there and playing hard. And if there's a way that they can keep the Broncos out of the playoffs, they're going to try it, right? So just because it's the backups doesn't mean that it's a for sure Broncos victory. Now, the fact we're at home, the fact that we are the desperate team now, right? Should play in our favor. And I hope for everybody that's showing up, wear your old school Broncos logo hat or jersey or whatever the case is. I didn't have the picture yet, but the field design is going to look sick with those orange old school end zones and the Denver D in the middle. It's going to look great, guys. So let's get ready for it, guys. And thanks for helping us get over 22,000 followers. You guys are awesome. Very, very awesome.
Yeah, amazing.
And make sure you're following us on YouTube, link below. But Jared, here we go. Chiefs week, take number 2. Man, we were so close this last time we played them. Literally a blocked field goal away. What are you expecting as we head into this next game? And what are you hoping for other than the obvious of a Broncos win?
Yeah, I think obviously a Broncos win is kind of just really what I don't even care how it comes. I just want the sweet taste of playoffs in my mouth, even if it is temporary. But really what it comes down to is in this game, you're not going to have the Mahomes magic. And I think that's going to be big. I don't think you're going to have the 𝗕cie. I don't think 𝗕cie is going to be playing much. He's been banged up all year as well. You're not going to have that magic offense. And with he's a no talent. I will say I'd rather take another backup over Carson Wentz as far as backups go. He's not a terrible one. He's not somebody that you can kind of take lightly. And the other tough part about playing against backups is that you don't have tape on them. So it's hard to game plan against some of these guys and know what their tendencies are when you don't have tape on these guys to be able to see what their tendencies are. But I think that if we just stick to our normal game plan, right, run the ball down their throat. I think the other big one is on their defensive line. They got a couple big defensive line names out. Run the ball. We're going to be starting our starters the whole time. Just take it seriously. Go 100%. And I think the Denver Broncos have done nothing but that this year. And that's the one thing I will give. I think there's only 2 games that I think that we gave up on. And that was the Chargers and the Ravens game, the first Chargers game, and then the Ravens game. But other than that, every game you see, they don't give up. They have no quit in them. They're going to go out there and they're going to play their best ball as much as they can. So I think that this is a good chance for Bo to kind of bounce back, get a good couple of touchdowns under his belt, and the run game to get going. And like I said, the defense I think is good. We talked about it before. We talked about it multiple times in the show. We don't have too much worries on the defense. When you're playing backups, it's a little bit easier to have a little bit more confidence in the defense to either get to Carson Wentz or be able to get a couple picks or dropped, batted down balls. Yeah.
These guys, they know what's on the line. They know that Carson Wentz has been around. He's been a starting quarterback. He knows what it takes. He wasn't the starter when the Eagles won the Super Bowl there, but, he helped them get to that point. And he's been around the block. So, it's not like, just any of these no-name guys starting there. And, I did hear that maybe they'd be starting their third string quarterback. I don't think that's going to happen. I think, you just got to take these guys seriously. But I would not be surprised if our secondary has a big day. I wouldn't be surprised if we rack up the sacks again, and that solidifies the Broncos defense being the number 1 team in the league with the most sacks, like we currently are sitting at. I wouldn't be surprised if you see another 4 or 5 out of these guys. Nick Bonito gets more action there too. But yeah, like you're saying, just run the ball, keep the Chiefs offense off the field, kind of treat it like Mahomes was out there. Just don't even let him have a chance. And if McLaughlin and company have another great day like they did last week, man, you could be looking at finally a running back having 100 yards in a game for the first time in 2 years. So let's see, Anthony right here. Broncos are going to be wearing the best uniforms in the NFL. Yeah, I think our throwbacks by far. And if you saw what the last time we wore them, we had pretty good success rate there too against Las Vegas. I think it adds a little bit of Broncos magic to the mix.
It does. And I love the look of it too. And I joked about it in our group chat today. Like wouldn't this just be the perfect signature writing? Like Broncos come back to Denver. They're playing the old school throwbacks. We clinched the playoffs for the first time in 9 years, all at home, get to celebrate at home with the fans and get to wear these sweet uniforms. I mean, it just kind of all fits perfectly. It would be nice. It would be nice if they were playing their starters and we still got to do it. But I'm okay at this point after the last 2 games of very, very close games and difficult games to play, that we have one that we need to just go out there and do our game, like play our game. We don't have to worry about any crazy magical stuff happening from 2 great quarterbacks, and which we've seen the last 2 weeks. So let's go out there. Let's play our game. Let's put points on the board and stop them from scoring and make this just a no contest game and go into the playoffs a little bit happy and get ready to go. Yeah, Nicole, I agree.
Yeah,
I hope that's really what it comes down to.
I mean, you got to think about it. Yeah, you think about it like, first off, I want to bring this up because this is part of the magic. I'm not going to be able – I'll find a better picture of the field design here in a minute. But, if the Broncos hadn't – or if the Broncos had one, we'd probably be sitting our starters as well. So it'd be a pretty low-key game. And I think there's a lot more energy if you can beat the Chiefs and say, okay, here we go into the postseason. We beat the Chiefs. We're feeling confident about ourselves. You have a chance to really kind of focus on the basics, making sure you're doing everything right before you head into probably what would be Buffalo. And that's what it would be for the Broncos. So, and we've seen that we can beat Buffalo. It's not an easy task, but if you execute well, it's very possible. Now, Jared, how concerned are you about, kind of the maybe penalty trend we've seen from this Broncos team lately? Is there anything you're seeing there that, man, is it just an isolated thing, or is this like an actual trend we got to worry about?
No, I don't think it's a trend that we have to worry about. And it's because, 2 games ago, we talked about the Chargers. There were some games, there were some plays there that you're like, dude, that was dumb. In this game, there were some big penalties that kept their drive alive, and mostly on the defense that I was really angry about. Some holdings downfield that really got me kind of frustrated. Like, come on, man, don't call that, right? Like, why? There's no point to call that. It was a soft call to begin with, had nothing to do with the play. Like, it was a weird, like a couple play calls on the defense. Again, I don't blame refs, but at the same time, I don't think it's something to worry about. I think it's just something that we need to clean up. And offensively is the ones, obviously from the offensive minded side of it. Offensively, I think we did an okay job cleaning up those penalties. I think we only had maybe 1 holding, 1 false start on that. I have to go back to the numbers, but I didn't see anything crazy that really stopped us from driving big time. Like, it wasn't like we were getting a penalty every time we got on the field. So I think that we're doing an okay job penalty wise, but the defensive penalties really, really screwed us over in a lot of times on that, the drives that the Bengals were having. So I think we'll be okay.
Yeah. Let's see, Nicole, I couldn't say this better. I mean, you're talking about not just the Broncos being desperate, but these guys have waited for so long for this opportunity. I mean, how many years ago was it? Just a couple of years ago, where you see the infamous video of Garrett Bowles in the locker room just saying, all I've done here is lose, and just see the defeat in his face, right? And just his body language, his demeanor. And you kind of saw that among all the players. I mean, how many times do we talk about, just the body language from the players? As soon as something bad happened in the middle of the game, they're like, well, there it goes, like, crap, here we go again. But they've really learned how to be resilient, how to stay in these fights, how to fight until the very end. I mean, this last week's game was a perfect example of it. So if you think that the Broncos are just going to, kind of saunter their way into the playoffs and then go out to Buffalo and be like, okay, we're here, but, we're not expected to win anyway, so we're just not going to give it our all. Man, these guys are going to be amped no matter who we play, no matter where we play. And it's going to be really good for them to see it. It's going to be rewarding for them to see, Garrett Bowles just signed that 5-year contract extension with us. These young players are going to bring in a ton of energy to say, hey, we made it in our first year. And it's going to be a great learning experience. So for anybody out there who's like, well, the Broncos aren't going to make it far in the playoffs anyway, so they should either just lose or, it doesn't matter. Like, oh, come on. This is experience that is really going to pay off for these guys. And again, they make it. It's like, that's the expectation now. It's good. You exceeded the expectations by large that we had for you this year. We're going to hold you to that higher standard now every year. It's playoffs or bust for the Broncos. And I don't think they're going to let up at all either.
No, I think this team is just as hungry for it as the fans are. Young guys included. I think they know what's at stake here, and they have some very good vets in there. Like I said, like you said, Sutton, Bowles, some of these guys that have just been like, and they're dedicated. They're with the team, right? They're very focused on team mentality, and both Sutton and Bowles signing, Bowles just signed a huge off-season contract or mid-season contract to stay with us for even longer. So these are guys that are Broncos for life, and they deserve it, and they've earned it. And I think that this team is playing for guys like them to be able to go. I wouldn't be surprised if we clinch this again in our home field. Would be nice, because you go in there and you give those guys a big hug in the locker room or on the field and go, hey man, we did it.
We did it. We did it, and you guys get to celebrate now. Nicole, I'm right there. If I cried, if I was one to cry, I probably would as well. And I would have cried at that last catch, that Mims made to go in overtime. But I don't cry. I'm too stonewalled. I don't have any emotion. So just kidding. I was pretty damn excited.
I was jumping up and down. I mean, me and the wife were jumping up and down the backyard screaming. It was great. It was amazing. I still can't believe that game, just the back and forth there in the end of the fourth, and then into overtime, even back and forth. It was just crazy. It was amazing.
Yes, for sure. I thought it was funny.
Nicole with a good point here too.
Yeah.
So I was going to say Nicole here with a good point. Sutton needs 17 more yards to get to 1,000-yard receiver. I don't know when the last time we had 1,000-yard receiver was, but that's amazing.
Yeah, exactly. And again, it's something else that he deserves.
Yeah,
he's been that 50-50 guy for the Broncos for so long. And he's been somebody that we've been able to trust for so long. And he's seen, every time they pull up that, they haven't done it recently, but they pull up the quarterback carousel for the Broncos. He's seen them all, basically, right? I mean, he overlapped with Demaryius Thomas for a little bit there. Like, he's been there since we imploded after Super Bowl 50. So he definitely deserves all the accolades he gets. Neil right here has his hands full talking fans off the ledge. I know that I got pretty agitated during the game itself. I'm letting my emotion. I'm not thinking clearly. I'm not thinking logically during the game. I'm just saying things emotionally. And then I go back and think about them clearly later.
Neil, I'm with you, man. I've been talking people off the ledge and for me, it's been the just trying to blame somebody. Like, I think we just, as a Broncos country as a whole, I said at the beginning of the episode, I'm going to say it again. We need to take a step back and go, there's no single point of failure here. It's just a team game, and we need to figure out how to work it together. And it's the first time, I'll say this, the first time in the last, 9 years probably, since we made the playoffs last time with Peyton Manning, that I've been able to sit back and say, guys, this isn't a single person problem. This is we're young and we need to grow. In the past, it's always been, okay, the offensive coordinator is calling crappy. The quarterback is playing crappy. The whatever. Like, we literally have a good team. We have a good culture, and we're working it, and we're there, and we're going to show it on Sunday. I really do believe we're going to show it on Sunday. We're going to clinch for the first time in 9 years that we have a future, and we're on the upside of that bell curve.
Mike, Mims has shown he's a very valuable asset for this team. And that's one of the things we kind of came into this season asking, like, where does Mims fit into this? Like, he hasn't really done too much in his first couple seasons. And, it's just, is he developing? Is he going to be a bust or something that we end up cutting here soon? But he has definitely solidified himself. You could call it the Joker role that Sean Payton really loves. And he's coming in clutch. And every time he catches one of those difficult passes, I mean, that's experience for him. That adds to his, confidence level. And you can really see that another off season in planning for how to get him more involved is going to be more dangerous against other teams. They're really going to have to start watching this guy. And, that's not just how do we cover Courtland Sutton and, dare you to throw to the others. You got to worry about Sutton. You got to worry about Mims. You got to worry about 𝗕𝗿elle. You got to worry about the passing attack to the running backs. If Franklin, gets on the same page as Bo, you got to worry about him. Like, there's a lot that opposing defenses are really going to have to start worrying about as we head into this next year.
Yeah, I like the Mims storyline. I wish there was some sort of cameras following around this, because let's see. At the beginning, we had Jeff Legwold down at the beginning of the show. At the beginning of the season, we had him on about halfway through the season. At the beginning of the season, Jeff Legwold came on and was like, look, Sean's just not seeing what he's got. And they're not scheming for him. They're trying to scheme to these other guys who they have a lot of faith in. And then halfway through the season, you start seeing him getting a little bit more involved, right? You see him, they planned stuff to him, the screens, the sweeps, him lining up as a running back, like stuff like that. You start seeing him getting a little bit more involved. And then now all of a sudden you see him lined up back as a slot receiver, getting some huge plays. And like that play, again, I can't imagine, like, of all the things that went wrong offensively for that last game, that one play to split the two high safeties. They had two high safeties. I can't tell you how hard of a throw that is to know that he's going to beat him as soon as he got even with him. He threw that ball knowing that it was going to be there, just knowing, and that's a read. So now you're talking about the offensive coordinator looking at, okay, hey, we're going to build in Mims to be one of Bo Nix's reads, especially on the deep ball, because the reason we drafted him was for his speed. And we got it, and we're there. And now you're going to see that happen a little bit more often. Give some time, give some offseason, get some game planning and scheming, and change some offensive plays, change the game plan a little bit on your playbook. And now all of a sudden you have a completely different mindset. And you have a guy in Mims who may be your number 2 receiver, as opposed to right now it's Sutton number 1 and who's number 2. It's just whoever's open. Now you're going to see a guy like Mims be a true number 2 receiver.
Yeah. Question from Bill here. Hi, Dad. How you doing? Why worry about 𝗕𝗿elle when they don't use them? My thing there is, we talked about just briefly earlier on, there were at least a couple plays where 𝗕𝗿elle was wide open, right? And I think, to me, that's more Bo Nix learning how to read the field a little bit better, knowing who's going to be open based off reading the coverages, and kind of developing that rapport with him a little bit more. We've seen what 𝗕𝗿elle can do. There's no question about it. So now the question into this offseason is, how do you get that Bo Nix to Von 𝗕𝗿elle connection more frequently? And that's going to, and in fact, I would like to go into the season with teams going, oh, we don't really need to worry about 𝗕𝗿elle because they don't tend to, utilize them very well. And then I'll surprise them, because 𝗕𝗿𝗏lle is the guy that's going to come and clutch for you. And it's just a matter of time, I think, before those guys get on the same page and other teams realize, okay, this is another guy that we really do have to worry about.
Yeah, well, we have a guy like Mims who's a change of direction guy. That's why he's our punt returner, right? You have a change of direction guy. You have a guy that you can get the ball into open field and make plays. 𝗕𝗏elle is kind of the opposite. It's not so much get him the ball in open field, he'll make plays. He's probably going to get tackled on first contact. He's not a yards after catch guy, but he is a great route runner, and he will catch the ball if you throw it in his direction. So you need to get him on the short to medium routes that you need those yards, and that's what we've been using him as this season. But going back to your point on Bo Nix reading the field, I think really it's the pre-snap stuff. And again, another year, another offseason, that pre-snap read of what's the defense in. And this is stuff that when you're talking about great quarterbacks, you're talking about Peyton Manning, you're talking about John Elway, you're talking about, I know people are going to hate me, but Tom Brady's, right? The Tom Brady's of the world, right? Yeah. So you're looking at those guys, and you know what they were good at? They were good at reading defenses. Like, shoot, we went to the Super Bowl with one of the worst passing offenses in the league, but he could still do it because he could read the defense. He knew what was going on in the defense to know what he was reading. Once Bo Nix starts getting that down, and it's going to take a year or two, once Bo Nix starts getting that down and becomes a veteran in this league and can read defenses like Joe Burrow did against us, he's going to be able to open up 𝗕𝗏elle a little bit more and know that when he throws it to him, it's going to be caught. It's that Tim Patrick role. And I tell you guys, man, at the beginning of the season, I hated you guys, and I hope David's not watching, because I would kill him if he said it. But at the beginning of the season, I got off deployment 2 games in this season. I'm like, who's this 𝗕𝗏elle kid? And they're like, oh, it's Tim Patrick's replacement. They told me it was Tim Patrick. I was like, I love me some Tim Patrick. I'm glad he's doing well in Detroit. I'm big fan of Tim Patrick. I was so sad when I got back from deployment to find out that we got rid of him. But it's that Tim Patrick role of throw the ball to him in his area. If there's a 90% chance he's coming down with that ball. And again, he's a younger kid. He's a rookie. So he's a younger guy who's going to get better as the time goes on. And it's going to get better as it goes. And we have a kind of, it's weird to say, people hate saying that their wide receiver room is good, but we have a good complement in the wide receiver room. We have a true number 1 in Sutton. We have a possession guy in 𝗕𝗏elle, and we have a quick feet guy in Mims. And we have all these in the deep threat in Mims. And really Franklin, if we can ever connect on it, but we have these deep threats there. So we have a good complement of a wide receiver room. We'll see what happens in the offseason, but that's my take on the wide receiver room.
I like it. Nicole, I'm get your comment here in just a sec. Rich, how you doing? Yeah, I almost bought me a Tim Patrick jersey. Glad I didn't. But I'm very happy to see what he's doing out in Detroit as well. Nicole, good question here. Why isn't Jaleel getting the ball more? Why do we have to run with 3 or 4 running backs? Jaleel went for 10 to 12 yards a carry. I just don't get it. So it's the way the NFL is now. It used to be that you had a bell cow. You had a Terrell Davis. You had one of those guys that was your running back for 95% of the carries. But the NFL's gotten away from that. And it's very rare anymore to see teams have that single bell cow. Stuff like Derrick Henry.
Saquon Barkley, Derrick Henry are probably the only 2 I can think of off the top of my head. Yeah. Josh
Exactly.
Jacobs.
And here's the problem with that. If that guy goes down, you're screwed. You become a one-dimensional team very quickly, right? It's not very likely that you have this amazing running back and your backup who basically sits on the back, on the bench for the most part and doesn't really get any carries. Suddenly goes out there and does well either. So having this running back by committee does throw the opposing team off. Hey, what are they going to do? Just because Devontae is out there doesn't mean he's going to just pass block. He could run the ball. Jaleel McLaughlin, is he going to run up the middle? Is he going to run out the side? Is he going to, are they going to pass the ball? We don't know. So it does add a layer of confusion that the opposing defense does have to plan for as well. But until the pendulum starts swinging the other way, and I don't know if it ever will, teams are going to continue to do this. It's just what the vast majority, 28, 29 teams in the league do. And you kind of got to figure out who has a hot hand early in the game and roll with them, but you got to keep the other guys in there as well because you got to keep the opposing defense guessing.
Yeah, I mean, that's, I think, the biggest point, Kev. You hit on the head, and nobody hate me on here for saying this, but Jaleel's not a good run blocker, or pass blocker. Like, he's just not, right? You got big guys like 𝗕ci𝘂𝗿𝗯ance and Williams who could do really well in the pass block. If you need extra protection, you want those guys in there, and they can also run the ball on the inside. Now, Jaleel is our outside back runner. He's a freaking fast dude. But you also have to be, like you said, play you can't just put him in there every down. If you put him in there every down, then you're kind of screwed on passing downs unless you're putting him out to pass. But if you need that extra protection, you can't trust him to do that. And I'm sure that'll come. He's young. It'll come over time, but he's a smaller guy, and that's the reason he's actually been doing pretty well. And not for nothing why Phillip Lindsay wasn't in the league very long. He was just a smaller guy. And yes, he was a good running back and he could slip through and, give him the ball in his hands. He could make some plays, but can he do the other things, the intangibles that people don't look at when they're looking at like the stats on their, Excel spreadsheets? It's the intangibles that you have to look at. And that's why it's so hard for the Denver Broncos offense in the run game this year, is because you have 3 guys who can all run the ball decently well. Sometimes one of them struggles and then the other one gets in, but that guy can't pass block, or this guy can't, go out, pass catch, or isn't very good in the pass catching role, or you have to get an all-in-one. It's very rare, like you said, the Christian McCaffreys, the Saquon Barkleys, the Derrick Henrys who can do all of them. It's very rare in the league that you get that anymore. So you kind of have to do this running back by committee. And one more thing I'll mention, I'm on my soapbox. There's a difference between an inside the tackle runner and an outside the tackle runner. Yeah. Jaleel McLaughlin's an outside the tackle runner. He's a speedy guy who's going to be able to get outside and make some separation on the outside, or hit the hole and get some separation on the inside if the hole's there. When you also have guys like 𝗕ci𝘂𝗿𝗯ance and Williams, who, if you need 2 yards and that hole's like plugged, they're going to push that hole a couple extra yards to be able to get the extra first down yards. So yes, it is difficult to watch as a fan, but it's all strategic. It really is.
It is. Rich says, never want to see Williams on the field for us again. He did well early in his time, but his time is up. Look, this will be a conversation for later. I will say this it hurts to say, I don't see Javonte Williams being on this team next year. I think between McLaughlin and 𝗕ci𝘂𝗿𝗯ance, I don't know. They might decide to keep him and roll with him another year. I love the guy. I do, but the production just hasn't been there since his injury. And I hate to say it, but he hasn't come back looking the same. Jared, it looks like you want to strangle me right now.
I do.
Through the screen.
I do. I'm gonna save this one.
I hope he stays.
This one for later. I'll save this one for after the season.
This is off season. Yeah.
I'll save this one for after the season because I wholeheartedly disagree, and me and Richie have gone back and forth on a couple times. And this one I'm going to go back and forth on, and with you too. I think he stays. I think he's got a lot more value than people are giving him credit for if they're just looking at it. I do still think he's a very valuable running back. And yeah, you're right. Maybe money plays examples, but like he didn't have a great season this year, so that money might not be there any other team. I think we keep this running back room that we got.
That'll be interesting.
Reincarnation was, yeah.
Let's see, a couple more comments before we roll out here. Looking for a Broncos 𝗕𝗿𝗂𝗃 in 2024. Now, tight end is one of the top things the Broncos need, so we will see what they decide to do in the offseason there. Michael, Vele, Mims, Sutton get on the same page with Bo, and we can get a great running back, another Terrell Davis. Well, again, they're rare. They are incredibly rare nowadays. And this defense, whether Vance Joseph takes a head coaching job somewhere else or not, you got these players that are playing with this kind of intensity, and they're going to continue to grow and develop. It's going to be really, really cool to see what they can do moving forward. Let's see here. Guys, thank you very much for tuning in. We'll do some closing thoughts here before we do. Once more, check out Breckenridge Distillery Broncos blend whiskey. If you don't like whiskey, you're a little weird, but that's okay. I am too. They have vodka as well, Broncos vodka. So check that out. We are going to be opening these if the Broncos make it into the playoffs. So check out your notifications. Make sure you keep a close eye on what we're doing. The night that is official that we go into the playoffs, we will be going live. So that's probably, hopefully, maybe going to be Sunday night, and we'll just watch out for that. Yes, Jared, thank you very much for your service. Missed you at the beginning of the year, but glad you're here, especially helping me out tonight. But
yeah.
Okay, guys. Well, look, Broncos are set to take on the Chiefs in their throwback uniforms. The stands are going to be crazy if you're going to go to the game. I know it's supposed to be a little cold. Get over it. You're going to want to be at this game. But it's going to be a fun one.
What's the weather looking like on Sunday, Kev?
Cold, maybe a little bit of rain. I'm guessing like overcast type of stuff. It doesn't look like anything bad. No snow or anything like that. So should be just fine. Good. Yeah, Jared, we might rename you to Team Doink. I know you love that word. You love it. Yes, you cringe. Define cold. Not that cold for Colorado in December. Like high 30s, low 40s, it looks like. So actually pretty mild for...
Richie being up in Canada, it's probably like it's above freezing. It's going to be like 3 Celsius. I feel
shorts and flip-flops weather. Yeah, exactly. Well, let's do some closing thoughts here and get on ready for closing out 2024 with these comments as well. Paula and everyone else, thank you for tuning in. But Jared, start us off, man. What you got?
Yeah, first of all, Happy New Year, everybody. Super happy to do another year of this show and keep chugging along with doing the Bourbon Broncos No BS thing. I'm super happy to be here. Super happy to see where the Broncos are right now, regardless of where we're sitting and all the. It's just nice to be talked about at this time of year, as opposed to last couple of years around this time we're talking about the draft. Yeah, right. And offseason acquisitions, who are we getting rid of, who's getting fired, right on Black Monday. I'm super happy. I'm super happy. I am very content with where the Broncos are and what we've got building, and seeing the chemistry getting built over the year, and the fact that we are in our first year of a rebuild. Looking at playoff contention is just absolutely amazing. Our defense doing well. VJ having a great time, and I think VJ is very much like a Fangio or a Vrabel or a Ken Whisenhunt, like very good coordinators, not good head coaches. I don't think he's going to go anywhere in this offseason. I think we have the same coaching staff, and we have a very similar offense and defense going into the second year, and it's just going to make it that much sweeter when we are not on week 18 hoping to clinch, but doing it 3 or 4 weeks prior. So happy to be here. Happy, took me a couple days to get over the loss, but we're ready to go into Kansas City and just take this win, get into the playoffs. First time in 9 years. It's a great time to be a Broncos fan. Thank you guys for watching.
Mark, man, I'm looking forward to see you on Sunday and hanging out with you and tailgating, getting ready for this. It's going to be great. Yes, I would have rather, like Jared said, locked this up a week or two ago, but if I can celebrate it with you guys and just imagine walking down the ramps there after the game, everybody cheering and seeing just the excitement in the crowd, it's going to be worth it, right? So the fact we're here, guys, just revel in it. It's been so long. And if you've been sticking with us this whole time, you've felt the pain, the hurt of year after year of just bad news, right? Us trying to figure out what to talk about in November and December. Anything positive to talk about has been difficult. So this has been very fun for us on this side of everything as well. So thanks for tuning in, Mark. Definitely glad to see you. Neil, Happy New Year to you guys. This is going to be great. I know 2024 was rough for a lot of people, but it was a great year for the Broncos. And being able to talk about the P word and just being able to say playoffs openly and proudly is fantastic. So, and then Jerry, it's a lot more fun than last year or the year before that, or the year before that, or the year before that. And get out your abacus there, Jared. You might need to be counting for a while. It's a lot more fun than last year. I'm glad Russell Wilson is gone. I wish him the best of luck out there, but if we meet him in the playoffs, I hope we demolish him. So, guys, again, thank you very much for tuning in. We're going to head on out and start our New Year's celebrations as well. We'll be back Sunday, game 1 hour before kickoff. We'll be doing the live tailgate talk show where we'll also be doing the score prediction challenge. The jersey giveaway is still up for grabs. Of course, the Broncos have to win. Broncos have to win, and I think this is the day. So make sure you get in 1 hour before kickoff when we start announcing the score prediction challenge. You can put in your score prediction. Jared will be there and kind of walking you through all the rules there. But if you guess it right, we'll be sending you a jersey of your choice free on us. So it's going to be good stuff. And also make sure you're checking out the notifications for when we go live to celebrate in the playoffs, if that happens, knock on wood. And then the fan appreciation show late January. So we got a lot of stuff coming up, even though the Broncos season is coming, kind of starting to dwindle down to the end here. So just get ready for it, guys. Jared, again, thank you very much, sir. But I've been talking a lot. You've been talking a lot. I know I have nothing left to say other than to end this, as we always do, on a very strong Go Broncos!
Broncos!
Take care, guys.
Do what I like, yeah, I do what I like, yeah, I do what I like. Sip and go, sip is right, and I go with the flow, yeah, I go with the flow, yeah, I go with the flow, cause I know I'm the show. In the zone, here I go, in the zone, here I go, in the zone, here I go, yeah, they know